Hey, I'm Rob Dietrich, the master distiller and blender for Blackened American whiskey. I'm a virgin. Oh wait, I don't want to start with that. All right, I thought you meant in the background. Hey, I'm Rob Dietrich, the master distiller and blender for Blackened American whiskey, and I'm here with two of my good friends enjoying cigars. I think for me, cigars have always been a connection to friends and camaraderie. That's really where I think, I think anybody who picks up a cigar has probably started with a friend, and enjoyed it with a friend. So I think for me, it's about community and enjoying it in those peaceful moments, sometimes before the chaos begins.
Mm-hmm. Hey, my name's James Hetfield, human being, musician, craftsman, friend, dad, lover of cool things in life, vehicles, and cigars. Cigars for me are a good unwind after traveling so much. Be able to come home, plug in with my buddies, and sit in a small little room that's full of smoke and full of the truth. We just sit down and we're able to tell each other what's going on in our heads. And a cigar somehow is a meditative state for most of us. So that's why I love what I do and grateful to be a part of this project.
My name is Jonathan Drew. I'm a cigar manufacturer. My roots are, and the company bleeds it. We are New York centric. We're New York centric. We're Brooklyn to the core. And bringing that, exporting that New York theme, especially when we did, as we built Drew Estate, and bringing that to Nicaragua and finding that fusion up in the deep mountains of Nicaragua, close to the Honduran border. Thinking back to the wars that the country's been through the pain the country's been through in Nicaragua, and the people. My first 19 years living of creating the business, I moved to Nicaragua. I didn't come home the first 6. I put everything of my soul into really unpacking what it means to be a legendary cigar brand, a heritage brand that you build that's not built on Cuban tradition and the traditions of another group's journey. 5-generation Cuban cigar manufacturer, that ain't JD. That's not Drew Estate. We did it different, and it was pretty much just sheer determination and passion for the leaf, and as much as the people of Nicaragua in creating not just our cigar brands, but also our factory as a ecosystem within Nicaragua. So we're deeply Nicaraguan based. And as much as we have really broke the boundaries in the world of premium cigars, we were once the smallest cigar company in the world. With myself, 3 people, it was 6 of us. And here we are a couple of years later, obviously, and we're the largest cigar company in the world, the largest manufacturer in the world, and one of the biggest employers in the country of Nicaragua, which brings great responsibility, and you think a lot about your neighborhood, your block, right, your security guards outside, how they treat the neighbors and looking out for them, or if it's Mother's Day, how people line up around the factory to celebrate all the mothers, even if they don't work for us. These types of experiences, our job and my job, is to take that culture that we've built and bring it in, and shine it into each product that we make, which is really different from the other, whether it's Liga Privada or Acid Cigars, the country's biggest brand, or Undercrown. And with the Blackened project, it's really a passion project where you say, hey, here's the fruits that we bring, here's the earth that we bring, like Gladiator, when the motherfucker put his hand in the dirt, and the dirt's falling from his head. It's like, what do we bring to the mix? In being able to partner with you two in particular, it's really it's like a Pacquiao punch from an unusual angle. It's not 3 cigar manufacturers coming together to think of how to be the most efficient, to get the highest yield. And it's been a real journey with the two of you, and it's just getting better, and that's what today is about.
Yeah, I think where this journey started was probably over 12, 13 years ago, when I met Jonathan Drew at a distillery I used to work at in Colorado. and we just really connected. We connected over our passion for craft and artistry and spirits and just art in general, and just in that energy vibe. I think I met your dad first. I thought he was one of the Rolling Stones, and 'cause he looked like it. Had that look, and he said, "Oh, you got to meet my son." And we just really connected. We connected on a whole different level, and there was always this idea somewhere that we were going to do something someday. We just didn't know what and when, and I think that kind of brought us to more of a present time, where this was kind of a really born from COVID, kind of during the COVID time when none of us, the whole world was shut down. I was spending a lot more time up at James' house on the back deck. We're talking about life and talking about what moves us, what we're passionate about, enjoying cigars, really connecting over the enjoyment of stick, but also the artistry of the world and just humans being humans, and I think that's really where it started to evolve into something where it just occurred to me. I was like, hey, I got my buddy Jonathan Drew over here. I have my friend James, who is so passionate about cigars and everything that he does. This could be a really perfect fit. So that's when we started to really discuss whether this is something that we wanted to do and could do.
Yeah, I think the silver lining of COVID was us getting together and hanging out a lot more. And, you realize that, hey, life could be short.
Right.
And we're fortunate to be hanging out here, and who knows what's going to happen with this world, but then dreams, you start talking about what, you want to do or what you could do or things like that. And us just hanging out was fantastic.
Right. Right.
Everyone's walking around with masks on, and we're able to
socially distance on the back porch.
Absolutely. And
with a couple of cigars in hand.
Couple cigars, watching Rocky Mountain sheep come down the side of the hill. It didn't suck, but for a lot of people it did suck.
Yeah.
And not
We were very
discounting
fortunate.
any of that time, but yeah, it was something special for us. And obviously you had just hooked up with Bolello and taking over Dave Pickerel's gig at Blackened Whiskey.
Right.
And, I don't partake in the whiskey. I know it's fantastic because people tell me
I can attest
it
to
looks
that.
cool. Yeah. And, what do you, what can we do that I like? And
Right.
it was cigars. And then you just happened to say, hey, I know this guy, Jonathan, who's a pretty fantastic dude and kind of got similar drive and similar ideas and kind of fearlessness with that, and that was the beginning of it. And then we basically got a couple giant boxes of cigars sent to us, and we got to sit there and try everything you guys practically made, and so we got to basically taste your warehouse, and make notes and take down what we kind of liked. And, obviously it went on from there once we kind of got the thumbs up about this could be a possible thing. Just getting so excited about the uniqueness of the blend. And, same with the whiskey. Like, it really irks me when celebrities slap their name on something just because their financial advisor says this might be a cool little thing,
Right.
Let's slut yourself out to this, and then if that doesn't work, we'll do this. And it's like, no, Metallica, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it right, and we're going to do it all the way down to the roots. And we did that with the whiskey. We wanted it to stand on its own, not because our name was on it. And same with this. Obviously, we have a master distiller of sorts, producer of, you grow crop.
Twigs of leaves. I put leaves together.
Yeah, you
But
do.
You made one comment. First of all, it's been interesting to hear the COVID piece in how that fit in. It was the one piece that was new to me. But when you talked about tasting our warehouse, when you received that first carton, large box, of all the different brands we make, and you started to taste through, and the way you said it, tasting through our warehouse, tasting through our portfolio of tobacco, that was kind of your first layer into Drew Estate, James. That's where you're going through our tobacco in finished form, where the expression is put together as a blend. One of our many brands, right? Then what you did in the second layer of that, when you guys started to talk to us about what types of tobaccos you would like to potentially see in a cigar. You know, we're not a company, Drew Estate, who blends by number. Well, let's do a poll, and whoever likes one of these three blends, that's the blend. We don't give it two shits. Everything we've done has been the raw shit. Like, this is us, because we know if we do something that's not us, and I made that mistake one time in 2002, I had to learn my lesson. We have to stay authentic Drew Estate to the core no matter what. And when we started to hear back from you and your team about the types of tobaccos, now that you've tasted through our warehouse of our brands, let's go one step deeper. Eventually, we're gonna get to the leaf itself when we plant crops together. And we're going to talk about seed development. We're going to go layer by layer like the fountain. And right now, the space that you guys have crossed with our team, our master blenders, and you guys driving this, which has been outrageous for us. It's a very different new learning experience. You've now gone deeper into our inventories of tobaccos. So we blend from the Connecticut River Valley, Mexico, Brazil, and in Brazil, a country like Brazil, Mexico, you have Mara Fina, Mara Norte, Mara Sol, Arapiraca tobaccos. All of these could be farm tobaccos or plantation tobaccos. There's vast inventory of tobaccos at Drew, Dominican Republic, Honduras, Sri Lanka, you know, and then the way we work the tobacco. So when you think about tobacco as a seed, and then you say, here's a seed. All right, where's the country of origin? If you grow that same Criollo seed or Corojo seed, you bring that to Mexico or to Nicaragua or Cuba, what you will get is certain core elements that you might pick up throughout all those countries, but because of where it's grown, even within the country, because we have three key growing areas in Nicaragua, Estelí, Jalapa, and Condega. And we have Ometepe, which is a new one. So bottom line is, when you guys really came back and said, these are the types of tobaccos that you and James, because you were more on the phone with us and more connected. And I was very shocked at where you guys were in terms of taste. And it was, even for me, something that the industry hadn't really yet seen as a start. So it was very cool to work with people who love cigars, love the taste of the cigars, the enjoyment, the ceremony of it, but who aren't necessarily sitting there working on the seed and the leaf. And that, I think, really a connecting piece to this, because the first blend that we did together, when we really started to come together with this idea of diving full scale into the world of Maduro, the darkest, heaviest, richest tobacco style, and that for me was like, all right, we're in the right direction. We're doing something nobody's done, and it's going to be rugged, and it's going to be raw, and the end result in its finishing glory is going to have the smoothness, the boldness, and really we connected there. So I think this experience now, in taking where we started off, the trust that we've built amongst our teams in delivering on everything we say we're going to, has been incredible all around. And now I think we're in the second phase with what we're here enjoying today.
We're no longer dating anymore. I think what's cool.
You're a little
this,
easier than me.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah. I'm
I love what you said. I mean, obviously you said the word heavy, which I kind of like, you know, and making a statement, obviously. But the fact that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about most of the time about
the beauty of it.
A cigar. I know what tastes good to me. I know what feels classy. I know what tastes classy. To me, we're all out to get some of the best things on the planet that the planet has to offer. And the fact that I don't know all that stuff, you know, it's like I don't want to go backstage, you know, kind of do, but don't. I like not knowing because it gives me the freedom to just say something, and you might go, ooh, oh my God, you know, he doesn't know shit about this, but he's got a point, and maybe we should try this. So I do like coming from the outside as just a dude, and we would sit down and smoke mostly the League of Nines, you know, fantastic smoke. Everyone in my group loved it. So it's like, how do we riff off of this one, you know? So I don't know, to me, this is kind of like, you know, the Liga on a steroid of sorts, you know?
The next level for sure. And we were keeping journals, you know, like, you know, Dear Diary, which, you know, because we had all these different cigars. We were like, okay, I like this, I don't like that. You know, the wrapper seems a little, you know, like maybe green or you know, spicy. So we were really kind of diving deep. Again, you know, not coming from the cigar world, but knowing what we like or knowing what we enjoy. I think just like any human being who knows what food they like or what drinks they like, they're going to have an idea of what their palate is without even really knowing it. And I think we got to really fine tune that and then work with you guys to create something special here.
Did you ever, and I think I know the answer, did you ever write a song? Did you ever finish an album? Did you ever finish distilling a batch? Did you ever finish fixing a distillery component that they couldn't fix? I remember seeing you in California, like, I'm fixing this giant distillation pot for some other company. They needed some help and they called you over to make sure the thing worked. You know, when you do something and it's like you say, going into it, the amount of torture you put everybody else around you through because you're deciding at the last minute and the last pieces of the componentry of the album or the song or the blend or the brand of whiskey or American whiskey or cigars. You know, there's a few times throughout my career where my energy was so beyond excited to the point of just commitment, where like the first time when we finished the first blend, I remember like having tears. I was like, this is it. And I held the cigars because, you know, when you're holding a bundle at a production floor, it's heavy. Yeah. It's heavy. And when you're on the production floor at the factory, La Gran Fabrica, Drew Estate in Nicaragua, and there's thousands of cigar rolls and the clacking of the chivetas rolling and the tables moving around, the wooden tables, it's a handmade product. It's like when you think of all fucking brain versus brawn products out there, and you say, what is the king of all fucking brawn products? Is it lettuce? No, it's not fucking lettuce. Is it wine? Well, maybe, or this one's got machines. This is the rawest Betty motherfucking Crocker. They ain't no more raw than this. This is Little House on Prairie. And you're rolling these tobaccos together, these twigs, and you're forming them into this beautiful tube of tobacco that has to burn right. It has to burn evenly. If it burns down one side, if it burns into the middle, you're not going to get the blend that you worked for a year and a half on, and we worked as well, to get that blend. If it doesn't burn right, it doesn't have all the characteristics. People don't know that. They go, you know, my cigar tasted this way. First I had it burn. If it didn't burn right, you weren't getting the chef's blend. You were getting some mistake concoction. So
getting spam.
So yeah. So with the Connecticut, is such a different journey. This time around this is round two. You know, when you think about the Maduro, you might go, wow, this is the one that's harder to blend. The Maduro, the heavy leaf. Right? Heavy leaf versus bright leaf. Bright leaf, a Connecticut shade, a Sumatra, an Ecuador style thin tobacco. That heavy leaf tobacco that we use on that Mexican tobacco on the cover leaf wrapper that's on our Maduro. That leaf, when you're holding it, the contexture, the texture of it, the emotional feel you get, even in your hands at the factory level or on the farm level, you know, that stage where your mind drifts there, like, you know, when I was a kid eating a box of eating some cereals, and you're eating those cereals and you're looking at the box, it's just like, how many times have we heard that shit? But when you're at the factory level and you're bringing together your dream, our dream, that responsibility, it's such a big moment for just a poor New York kid. I grew up, son of two antique dealers, Esther and Gary, still alive, from New York, from Brooklyn. And, you know, it's still just a young man's dream to have these moments in my career, in my professional career and existence, to be able to do this. So when we made this commitment to do this together, I said, you know, I want to feel good. I want to stand proud of what we're producing together, and I want us to be just absolutely perfect, absolutely perfect. The imperfections of the leaf in and of itself, how leaves sometimes, just like distilling, you hear the stories, right, of like some fucking giant snowstorm knocked out half the building, but those barrels were in the snow for that extra, that's imperfection.
Yeah, that's why they're different. Yeah,
They-
exactly.
so
That's what
good.
you lean into it. You lean into it. I think that's the beauty. There's always the growth, you know, just like we started with M81 and then getting to work with the S84 and understanding, you know, just, you know, like everyone's palate is a little bit different. So there's a different approach to making something else. Like the whiskey world, you know, some people absolutely love bourbon, but they don't like rye. And some people love rye, they don't like bourbon. But sometimes you can blend both those worlds together, and you know, and you create an artistry within that. That's, you know, this is the epitome of that. This is the blending of flavor palettes, your flavor palette, my flavor palette, and coming together in this kind of growth of ourselves, you know, the evolution of where we're going, in artistry, in an art form. So, you know, this is the embodiment of that.
Yeah, they're both fantastic songs. I mean, and they're different songs.
Right.
But there's a journey from, you know, the intro all the way to the end of the song, and they taste different, and you ride the journey. I mean, this thing is so fantastic. And yes, it can be a little strong for some people, but it's a sit down cigar for me. And a couple of my buddies have to, you know, need a little help leaving the room. But this is I would say a more of a daily smoke for me. And once we got that blend and you handed me that fantastic
That
bundle,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah.
We had some fun with that.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. Still, you know, I mean, honestly, for me, looking at a light wrapper, always just, it's like, oh,
Right.
you know, oh, that's my grandpa's cigar, you know, and they're all kind of the same, but it is not. It is absolutely not the same. I was super surprised at how beautiful it tasted, and I'm super proud that we do have a daily smoker now. And then this is your maybe sit down and get a little more serious with the boys smoke.
Right.
So that's all awesome. You guys knocked a couple
That's cool.
questions off there. James, you hit on obviously like the music notes and like each cigar is a song. What role did how did Metallica influence on branding and even like the flavor profiles, like, you know, your background in music, and even Rob, your background with music and all that stuff? How did all that come together?
Wow. Well, I guess the artist in me loves something unique, something that no one's done before or has, you know, done their research with their mentors or their masters in their lives and redigested it in a new, maybe a little more open-hearted way. I love hearing music that just sounds unique and different. That's what I look for. Sometimes it's smooth, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's really raw and hits you wrong at the start, but then you start to love it because it is so unique. So I guess how that falls into this is us, you know, digging as deep as possible into the Maduro world, which I enjoy, and seeing what we can do with it, and do something that no one else has done before. we're writing a song, we're really good at our craft, and we can shine a turd. We totally can. You could take a riff that's, you know, somewhere in the C or D pile and make a decent song out of it. But why? Why start with the D pile? Go for the A pile. And if you've got a great riff, the song's gonna write itself. And maybe it's the same with the product, with the leaf, with the whatever you start with.
Right.
You know, getting the best and then building from there.
I think it's always about creativity. When I was a kid, I was always building forts, and you always want to add a different element to it. I remember my dad, I had I had 2 trees in the backyard, and I was like, well, can we put a bridge between the 2 trees? Can we make, can we do something different than just a regular tree house? And then that was into, then it was into motorcycles, taking this old rust bucket, piece of shit motorcycle, and breathing life into it, and giving it, so it's always been about creativity, finding what you're passionate about, what you're excited about, and then digging into it. And before you know it, 6 hours have passed. You've been working on this one thing. You didn't even know that you were in there that long. You thought you were there for 30 minutes. And I think that's always going to bleed into all aspects of your life. When you start doing it on a professional level, creativity and artistry, I think that's where it opens up this really kind of vast, like anything's possible. Anything at all is possible if you are inspired enough and you dream enough, and go big enough. You can always do something that inspires yourself. You're inspired by other people, by the passion of other people, and then you kind of bring it all into we're 3 creative people from entirely different walks of life, but we find these avenues of connection and passion for the passion of creation, of artist, of an art form. And I think that's what I love about projects like this. It was born from a passion. We were just like, we were enjoying what we were doing, and we were all enjoying it, and bringing that all together to work together on it.
And at the end of the day, you have to like it.
Right, yeah.
You have to like it.
Right.
I have to like the song. I write songs for myself, and as selfish as that sounds,
Yeah.
the crowd gets it. They understand. He's a true artist because we can tell him what to do, and they certainly do. Why don't you do more like this? Why don't you do more of that? It's not what I'm doing. I want to write a song that I want to hear. You want to make a cigar that you want to smoke. You want to make a whiskey that you want to drink. That's where people's trust come into it, I think.
That's exactly
You're
what
not doing it for somebody else.
I describe making whiskey exactly that way, that I make a whiskey that I want to drink, and hopefully other people like it. And when I find that they do like it and they enjoy it, then you're more empowered to keep creating in that sense.
Well, I just want to say one thing. This is, I resonate with a lot what you said, Rob, and there was one point that you said, James, about these piles of A songs, B songs, D songs, etc. Why would you ever make a masterpiece starting with a D quality song unless maybe there was some pain or some shit in there that you're like, I got to go back to that shit pile of D because there's just something in that stank. There's just something in that pile, which in Spanish is what we call a pilón. So cuando nosotros tiene pilones, nosotros tiene tabaco. 4,000 libras para 8,000 libras de tabaco. 4,000 to 8,000 pounds in a pile that we call a pilón for pile. And that pressure of the airflow, of the water, of the heat, that throughout the pile, the pilón, creates a fermentation process.
Right.
That pile, your words, whether it's B quality, C plus quality, you might at one point in your life say that pile of tobacco is a D quality pile. Let's sit it aside for a year. No, make it 3 years. And let's look at it then, because it was a misfit when it was a child, but it graduated and something magical, very fucking magical happened in fermentation. My man knows about fermentation. I'm gonna tell you about fermentation for a minute. That magic that happens, as that pile of 4,000, 8,000 pounds of tobacco. When you see them make those beautiful hands,
Yeah.
they take the tobaccos and make a hand, and then they have it and it hangs down, and then you put them in a pile in a circle, and it's beautifully blown, it's majestic. That pile, as it graduates through D, some is A, this shit is lit right here. Where did this come from on the farm? Exactly. Let's go. We're driving to the farm. We're going to go. You want to see where it's from? It's an A. It is a motherfucking all-star athlete beyond belief with 16 trainers at one time training. It's fucking nuts. And guess what? Shit goes astray. And that A graduates to a B and starts to lose its fernaciousness. That fucking just... and it loses it. So at tobacco, what you must do is then say, what do I do with that tobacco? I had in mind for this to make a League of this, or a Blackened that, or an Underground, or a Herrera, whatever blend it might be brand. That tobacco has value, and as a production, with my production hat, running the biggest factory in the world, that I built the walls, knocked them down, same fucking wall 3 times. Why you knock it down? I don't know, we're going that way. You know, we're going that way, knock that wall down. That's how we had to do it from the ground up when you ain't got no bread, when you ain't got no money. So we had to learn it the very hard way at True State. It made us rugged, made us be survivors. The leaf is the fucking same. Every leaf is a survivor. Every leaf that goes into these tobacco products of premium cigars, some of these leaves are weak, and you say, well, I'm gonna train you. A tobacco leaf needs to go through fermentation, those piles of tobacco, and it goes through that bulk, that process. Some of our wrappers take 2 years, 3 years, some a year. Some, you don't want to age them more than 9 months, 10 months, 12 months of the wrapper itself, like the Connecticut shade to black that we're talking about. Because its fermentation process is faster. Why? Because the leaf is thinner. If the leaf is thinner, the more pressure you put on that leaf, what are you fucking doing?
Yeah.
You're jamming the
extracting,
leaf. You're creating fermentation or curing the product and creating the product to mature. So this journey of getting to a finished blend behind the scenes, and now you guys have been through it 2 times. So each time you do it, I hear the way you're talking about the leaves and the way you think about them, and you're starting at this point with to transcend from a master whiskey distiller, master musician of history. Myself, I'm not going to give myself any fucking accolades that I don't already do, because I do, because I'm proud. But it allows us now to create the song from various piles that are not just actual tangible piles in your hand, they're piles in our mind. They're piles of anything from rage to exuberance or pure joy, like having your first child. Mm-hmm. All of that landed in both times different things going on in my life. That impacts the way I think about this fucking cigar, that I got to call John Bilello, we got to get on it, we got to talk to them, we have this, it's going to be a little, you got to wait a little longer. Like the first time you waited an extra couple of years. We didn't have the tobaccos ready. We needed time to have everything perfect. And you guys, you know what you did? To me, it was one of the most important tells of our relationship, was you guys were so patient and just wanted the cigars to be beautiful and perfect.
You gotta be perfect.
Not to worry about when they were coming in necessarily. And that made a big deal to all of us at the Drew Estate, because we were like, these guys really are partners. This is what we want.
Well, I love what you said about, and it kind of brings up, yeah, you can have a great leaf, but it takes how many other leaves to make that one great, you know? And you don't know, it's like all these different layers of inspiration to have that one riff. I don't know where it comes from, but it's a collection of all the different things, and obviously it's not one guy writing the song either. You know, it's a collaboration, and everyone gets to kind of have their thing. But I love the misfit leaf that has its day, man.
Yeah, it has its day. And there's the moments of how you feel when you're writing a song on Tuesday in July. It's different when you're in December and you're Rocky Mountains and the snow is falling down and your mind's in a different place. Mm. When this guy is doing his whiskey, I've been drinking your whiskeys for the last 12, I think it's more, you said 12, 13 years? I think it's closer to 15.
Yeah.
But either way, you come into Nicaragua, this guy coming to Nicaragua with bags of these strange bags, and so 8 bottles of booze that he was, all hand labeled and this and that. So various times.
Those are urine samples.
Yeah, I'm required.
You went to go see a doctor.
Hey, Rob, it's really good. Oh, that was the urine sample.
I'm required by
Don't
law to
drink
carry
that.
those with me everywhere.
They're good doctors in Nicaragua. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I need you to test this. Yeah. Well, I think when we first got the bundle, and James, you were describing it earlier how cool it looked. It was just this neat bundle. It's not in a in its final package. It's in that raw form of that kind of raw art piece. And we were in New Jersey, and we had just filmed a bunch of stuff we were talking about. I think it was the day before your birthday, and we went out and tried the cigar for the first time in the stadium, watching them build the set, build your stage there. And, for me, that's obvious, that's a special moment to just get there and get to see, them building your art form and get to enjoy the craft of your art form and really kind of dive into, all right, what's different about the S84 than the M81? We've got that same filler, we've got that same binder, that deep, rich Maduro, those chocolatey flavors that we really enjoy. But then you got this lighter wrapper that was almost kind of this bright note coming through, and kind of in my whiskey making mind, I always want to layer flavor. It's always about drawing your palate in and kind of reaching this peak of enjoyment, and then this nice, kind of letting you down easy, and then this nice long drawn out finish. And that's the way I approach making a whiskey. So I'm always tasting those flavors, so as soon as the oils started burning, you do your initial kind of light, and you got to wait until it starts getting into the meat of the cigar, and you start tasting the oils after they've had a chance to heat up and really kind of marinate in there. That's when that's when the whole world's opening up. It's like, the Wizard of Oz when they went from black and white to color. Suddenly we're just like, what the hell is this? This is amazing.
Yep. No, I was honestly a little skeptical at first, thinking, like I said earlier, it's like, oh, this is just looks just like another cigar, But the flavor palette, the journey of the cigar itself is very unique and different than any other Connecticut wrap that I have tasted. And I'm super proud to have a daily smoker with me out on the road, So I got the best of both worlds here now. And yeah, sitting down watching the crew put the stage together, I love the working man. I love that. I get to watch these guys do their craft. Everyone has a place on this planet, and each one of those people that are out there, guys and gals, they've got a job to do, and they kick ass at it. Yeah. So us putting a show on, and you guys know all about this. Yeah, I might be the one they're looking at, but there's hundreds of people that are standing right behind me that made it all happen. And I love that. And I love the fact that you are employing half the country and you care about them and they care about you. That is fantastic. That is the key, being a kind person, and you have a gift, and allowing other people to join on and experience the life that you get to with you.
Yeah, you know what winds up happening as you do that, as you grow from 6 employees, our first 6, to 60 to 700 to 4,000 and 5,000, as you grow, you realize that the gift that and as you get a little wiser and older, you realize that the gift that you've given so much energy out is so powered and fueled by the gift that you're receiving. That you realize that, wow, it's really an ecosystem. It's an energy. And what I always talk about at our factory is, to my guys, to people who visit us on Cigar Safari, to people who come to Nicaragua on a tour, anybody, is when you're on our block, our barrio, we live in what's called Esteli, which is the second biggest city in the country. And then in Esteli, we have the Central, which is where we started with 1 factory to 3 to 5 to 11 different factories throughout the center of this small, think of a upstate New York, like college town neighborhood, right? And you're up in a mountain, up in, of course, deep in Nicaragua in the mountains, right? And, you know, our neighborhood inside of Esteli is outside now of Esteli Central. It's in a neighborhood in a barrio called Rosario. Inside Rosario is a smaller neighborhood called Oscar Gome with a Z. When Drew landed and the city built for us a bridge to take us from the center of the city, all the workers to Rosario, where half of our workers were, they built this bridge, and after that, Drew Estate landed, they named our town has our name, it's called Oscar Gome Dos. So Oscar Gome Dos is part of Oscar Gome, part of Rosario, part of Esteli, part of La Gran Fábrica de Nicaragua. That for us is our neighborhood. And when we landed on that mountain, and a cliff overlooking beautiful tobacco fields and a stream, giant stream that you know runs through it, and the majestic factory that sits like no factory that's ever been built in history. In history, it would imagine, and we represent Oscar Gome. Oscar Gome, so when people come to Nicaragua for a Nicaraguan Cigar Festival, Cuban Cigar Festival, United Nations, we've done it all. I've guest spoke for massive groups of United Nations, or the other one, big, it's going to come to me in a second, one of these giant groups, enormous. And I was one of the guest speakers, and the host of Telemundo was the host and shit. I was like fascinated. I do produce, I make tobacco, I roll twigs together and shit. This is like a moment. And I'm standing there, and there was 19 countries, all of Latin America, all of the Latin American countries, Central America, all of South America, everybody. And talking about Zona Francas, where like they make shirts or clothing and any type of textile, Zona Franca production. There's free zones in the country to be able to produce your craft or trade or big brands, you name it, right? Supreme, whoever. Yeah. Well, the pride of Esteli, the pride of our town, of what we do in making cigars, even beyond Drew Estate, is like Drew Estate is a messenger. We are the messenger of Esteli, of Nicaragua, what we've done for the country. It didn't hit us until all of a sudden the trade department of Nicaragua came to us and said, hey, we do tourism around the world, promoting Nicaragua for companies to come and invest in Nicaragua. We want you to be in our video that will be running in every trade show. And they made that on 2 different companies, Drew Estate and a shrimping company or something, a fish company. Right. And it's just those kind of movements that happen that connect to this brand and this moment of our life to those moments of these 18 countries come together, or what Central America not just produces but contributes to world goods, to world consumption of, you know, handmade products or products that are of agricultural nature. And being able to bring that to people's houses and have them put that cigar in their mouth, have it, is very personal. It's very personal. Drew Estate's up in your shit. We're very personal with people in their lives. Really, like with your music, you know, you're consumed by it, you're in a fight, you're angry, you're battling for a piece of it, whatever it is, and your riff that James and crew wrote take you through those moments where you needed that support. Cigars is like that too. They lift you up. When you've said, last thing I'll say is when you spoke about meditation, Steve Harvey wrote a piece called Cigars for Meditation. And at the very last sentence of it, he goes, my favorite cigar is acid cigars. I freaked out. I was like, yo, that's so fucking cool. My homeboy Stacey Wade brought me to meet him. We all got together and we prayed together. It was cool. It was a really great experience. Like this. So
yeah, it is about that brotherhood. You know, one of the things that you were talking about, JD, is that fermentation And I look at how similar the world of making cigars is similar to the world of making whiskey. It's, we rely on the farmers. We rely on the crops. The best possible. The best corn, the best rye. You got to start with those ingredients. You got to start with the soil, and then from there, you got to move into mashing, fermentation, distillation, barrel aging. There's so many aspects that go through all this, and I remember how impressed I was when I got to visit Esteli and see these giant piles of fermenting leaves, and immediately I'm like, this is the barrel house, in a way. Like fermentation is different with, we'll do closed fermentation or wild yeast fermentation, open fermentation, and that might take, 5 to 8 days, maybe 12 days at the most, before you get a full fermentation cycle, which is a lot different. You might do 2 years, 3 years, 4 years on a fermentation in a bed of tobacco. So I almost look at cigar leaf, tobacco leaf fermentation the way I look at barrel aging. There's a similar thing going on you've got to, to get a good whiskey, it's got to be 4 years, 6 years, 10 years aged in the barrel. So I kind of look at those similarities of, it always starts with the farmers. It starts with the people who are growing those crops. It comes back to this large scale production of ingredients that you got to break it all the way down to the final result. For you, it's the cigar. For us creating this thing, for a whiskey, you're taking all this huge field of crops, breaking it all down into grain, then you're fermenting all the way down into a bottle of whiskey. It's a huge and beautiful process, and there's so many details to it. You could say this only takes 4 steps. To make a great whiskey, you need grain, yeast, water, and time in the barrel. I can narrow it down to 4 things, but the complexities within all those 4 things are where the magic happens. That's where all those little layers are in there. It takes so many people to do that. So many people, like you were talking about, the stage crew and how, what at the end of the day, people are looking at you, but it takes that whole entire talented group of people to build that stage, to be able to put this on, to put it all together, to be able to take it to the next city and to be able to bring that kind of thing to them. And I can relate on that level. I was a stagehand for years. I was a rigger for years. I've been that guy, in at 3 o'clock in the morning, just covered in whatever, you're covered in, and having that passion for it and knowing that you're a part of something big. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I feel about what we're doing here. Yeah,
the stick. Yeah, you don't realize how many years is in this stick,
right,
or in that glass, or in that stage set.
How many hands have touched it? Not even just figuratively. Before it got to this part where we get to enjoy it.
And the passion is really infectious. And when you're so passionate about something, it spreads to the crew, and they get it.
Yeah,
they absolutely get it.
Yeah.
They know that you're 100% into this, and they're freaking proud. They are so proud to be a part of that crew, and whatever it is, the song, the show, the cigar, the bottle of whiskey, they take pride in that, and they're in that thing.
Yeah. One of the things that you guys reflect on a little bit is this process and the processing and how time is one of those 4 elements. Mm-hmm. The way you guys think a lot about a barrel house, rick house.
Yeah.
You're putting these barrels going up 7 floors, 8 floors into the sky, barrels that are on the northeast corner of the building at the top of the 8th barrel high, 8th floor, versus one on the northwest corner is going to taste, potentially those barrels will have different taste elements, one on the 8th floor, one on the 1st floor. That simple one step alone can be the difference of a brand that you may love. I ain't gonna say no name. That's the difference literally of one blend versus another blend, which floor that it went through this journey of 12, 10 years, 8 years, whatever, 4 years even. And that's what when you add that element of, I don't want to say religion, of discipline, right?
Right.
When you add the level of discipline of honoring the things that that you've learned that sometimes it's passed down from 3, 5, 12 generations or more of farmers or brand owners or famous patriot who became cigar makers, incredible histories, majestic histories. Where does Drew Estate fit into that of history? And looking at the way our design and develop and then deploy approach in terms of looking at tobacco is that all of those traditions, we're so subculture driven, and that's why Subculture Studios, since day one, we have over 50 full-time graffiti artists. You've been there at the factory, making all of our POS point of sale material throughout the world. We make it by hand in Nicaragua with graffiti artists. So we pull from the streets, from Managua, from everywhere, from all over the country, even from other countries. But what we want to be able to do is say, to make our mark, you got to slam dance to it. You got to march to it. You have to break boundaries and don't worry about how you sound or look to somebody goes, look at that fucking asshole. They're spray painting in this place and it's a cigar factory and, you know, dude's got Tupac on or Metallica, whatever it is, and it's blasting. And the neighborhood's like, 8 o'clock, lights went out because there ain't no energy in Nicaragua. You got to have, I remember we bought our first $52,000 generator from Ecuador, and I'm like, energy. It all comes down to fucking Bitcoin. It's energy, it's belief system, it's your ability to practice that in the face of people, of our, you know, very difficult moments in your businesses and in our lives, and then being able to share that and have that opportunity as an artist. You carry a lot of responsibility, and from the Drew Estate side, we carry it from every single person who works at Drew Estate, across the board, from the people in Desparillo who are shaking out the leaves from the water, of the people putting tobaccos together in like sizes or thickness. Texture of a leaf is the difference of greatness of Michael Jordan versus defeat. The texture, just the birthright of that leaf. You are birthright given this level of strength in your leaf capacity based on the spacing of the tobacco, the fertilizers that are used, the way water is given or not given or over given, and then taking those things that weren't right, those misfits, back to them again, where you say, we're the biggest buyer of tobacco and the premium in the world. So when we come through the door, and JD come through the door, any of my people come through the door to buy, when we're sitting down, we're not buying a couple $100,000 or $1 million of tobacco, we're buying $50 million and 60 and 80, ridiculous numbers of tobacco. The numbers have gotten so big, like I'm not a bean counter, it's not counting it, but it's mind-boggling, right? And you say, hey, I have to accumulate this much material to be able to fund this factory's ambition. Is so ambitious, the factory of rolling cigars, it's such a machine, and the way we roll there is it's bespoke. It's like very custom done, and people are relaxed if you want to leave a little weight from work or whatever. I think you get all that in our blends. I think it's something that's like when you say, hey, I get the Connecticut, I get the shade taste. I get this broad leaf from the Connecticut River Valley, this thick, dark leaf, depth and richness from it. I get all these tastes from the tobacco. And what you get in the magic that we do, and definitely the magic that you do, because you changed the world too many times over and had affected so many of us in so many ways, that it comes back to energy. And the energy that goes into this is from the things you can taste, the empirical evidence, the pieces. And then it's from the other piece that comes with our belief system, and that energy creates to work harder, to stay later in the day, to take tobacco further in its process than other people would, to not rush the heat up so it goes high, so you get faster, done faster, accountant's happy, super fucking happy, the CFO, because you got that tobacco aged in 1 year and not in 2. But that's not what's going to make us happy.
You can't cut corners on quality. That's just all it comes down to. If you have to take an extra year or 2 years to perfect it, it's worth that extra 2 years, because otherwise you're falling short and you're selling yourself short and you're selling the rest of the world short.
It's interesting because I hear the discipline part, you know. I lack quite a bit of discipline, but Lars, our drummer, he'll pull up a riff, you know, all of our, well, you know, we do an album every 7 years or something. He'll pull up a riff from, you know, Manchester 2002, you know, and he'll remember it. He's got it all marked down and whatnot. And I'm just like, dude, we'll write a new one. I mean, something's gonna come to me right now. But he's like, no, there's something special about this riff. And it's whatever, 20 years old, you know? And it wouldn't go away. So it stayed there in his mind. And not rushing the process, it had its time. It was the right time to show up. So when we do a record, we've got all of the song titles are, you know, like Stockholm or Manchester or Mannheim or whatever it is, because that's where the riff was first kind of goofed off with in the rehearsal room. And you don't even think much about it, but Lars has got eyes and ears, man. He's got...
And the memory, too. He remembers it.
Insane.
So you record every one of those when you're doing a rehearsal before a show.
Yeah.
You're going to record that, and that's something that he'll go back to.
Yeah.
And remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. It's an incredible talent. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, for me, just listen to him. Listen to JD talk. That is it. It's the passion. It's the knowledge, the street knowledge, the boardroom knowledge, all of that stuff, and him not saying no, him saying, hey, even that misfit pile, that's got a place, and the creativity, that's a no-brainer. I mean, and when I listen to him talk, it's inspiring, and that's what draws me to this.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. You know, I think that's why we connected in the first place when you were touring, you know, the distillery where I was the master distiller here in Colorado, and just the passion, the curiosity that you have for the process of making something was something I already carried. You know, like I knew every nut and bolt in that distillery, every single thing I'd rebuilt at some point by myself or with help of others. Because we had to. You have to wear different hats, you know, and that's part of the passion. It's like, all right, the grain mill's down. Well, we don't have money to fix it, so I'm going to learn how to fix a grain mill. I've never fixed one before. So, you know, it's those kind of things where you really believe in what you're doing, and that's how you and I connected, was just on that same kind of level of passion of the artistry, the craft of making something special, and every little detail that goes in there. And every time you and I have a conversation, you know, whether it's in the meatpacking district in New York eating borscht, you know, and we're sitting there, you're like, man, this is the best borscht in town. You got to try it. And like, I'm like, I'll fucking be there, because I love, you know, and I love food, and I think it's those flavors that comprise us. You know, it's these memories of where we were, where we're going, and what we're doing now. And I've always loved that about you, and that's how I think we really created that kinship. There was no question in my mind when this idea started to simmer, and a lot of it was like, you know, sometimes we're talking, sometimes we're not. And I think that's the great point about having cigars and enjoying it with people, is that you can have moments of silence that mean way more than the actual conversation sometimes. You know, you're actually speaking volumes in that sense too. And I think, you know, in those spaces of our conversation, sitting up there on your back deck, looking up at the beautiful Rocky Mountains, was where this idea started to simmer. And I was like, there's no other place. I already knew his passion. I just needed to introduce you to his passion. He knows your passion, and bringing all these crazy madmen together to create something, you know, fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, the madness, right? The madmen, the madness, the impossible. That, you know, it's often a function of there's the pieces to it that you say, hey, we want to have the process to be almost perfect, and then the art piece of it, as a graffiti collector, mostly 80s work and stuff at the Museum of Graffiti, like all the early stuff. The passion that's in New York City, whether it was all city people, all Manhattan, Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, and Brooklyn, being so deep in that space throughout my whole life, it's such a emotional place in terms of creativity that's really raw, that didn't start on a canvas. That raw energy into like, no, street painting bullshit. So, you know, I'm talking about the real early days, the foundational days of graffiti. It really wasn't about even the canvas to paint on. Like, what are you gonna do with the canvas when you got it? oh, you're gonna paint it classical, you're gonna paint it sarsaparilla, whatever the fuck you're gonna do. But these guys didn't come from canvas, and they didn't come from wall. That was also a layer before canvas. But before that, it was the train. It was the train, and it was colorful. And they said, hey, wait, graffiti is from African American or black culture in New York. And then they said, whoa, whoa, wait, hang on. Look deeper, and you see it's that. And it's the Puerto Ricans so many Puerto Ricans who brought that flavor of Puerto Rico, the actual flavors and the colors of the houses, the colors of everything are vibrant. And as those cultures come together and folklore comes together with it and retelling of stories, and it passes along down the generational gap and the story of the brand. And did it succeed? Did it break all records? Break all fucking sales records? No, that's not what this one's about. This one's got a different story. This brand's purpose, we got those two at Drew Estate. Thank goodness, we deserve it. We've worked hard for them. This thing was like, this has got to be, we have to break our own bounds at Drew Estate. We have to expand our boundaries personally to deliver what working with the two of you meant to us. And for the many years, you and I always known we'd work together. And then this like blessing on top of it that James, when you came into this vision that we dream that we always have to work together, I said, wow, Rob, you're a fucking genius, first of all. This is gonna be fun. And we're gonna do something that means something to us, because we've reached that point in our lives where we have the capability to make those decisions. Our back's not against the wall. It's a beautiful place to be. And it's a celebration. And as we, uncover what I was getting to in graffiti is the provenance. The provenance behind it. Oh, so how do you know that? This was passed from this hand to this hand. Now it's at Sotheby's. Is it a fake? Is it real? What's the provenance? What is it? It's the root. It's KRS-One. It's the compound. Irrational. Rational. No one gets to choose our path but us.
Yes.
Even if it's irrational or imperfect, and the end result has been trust.
Right.
Because this journey's early, but I've started to trust my instincts, and with you guys, and the trust level of getting to know you, and be able to also respect me, and respect, more importantly than me, is Drew Estate as a company and Nicaragua as a country. That's now part of our belief system, and the more we talk about that, that's why it's so important to keep going through the Rick House, keep going through the houses where tobacco sits, right? The houses where tobacco, when it comes off the field, we pull the tobacco out of the field. It's a plant, right? It's a fucking vegetable. We're planting it, pulling it out. It's in the wheelbarrows. Where's homie going with the tobacco? What's he gonna do? Ask the dude from New York. Right? That's a fucking joke. Ask the fucking guy from New York. He doesn't know shit. That's what made it perfect. And then we learned our craft, understand the disciplines, pass them down to the next generations and to the people who come back roaring, so it's a real blended approach to lowering our ego on my side, lowering our wanting to control a project so much for perfection, and having two other influences which are also different from each other. You're both unique. I've noticed this more and more too. You guys also, it's not like the two of you and JD. No, it could be me and James, or you and James and me, in terms of the way we might look at taste or the way something makes us feel when we smoke it. It could be any combination on each project that we work through that allows us to just let the guy who's got that fucking, his riff is right, let him play for a minute. Let him go, just keep going. Let's listen, sit back.
I think I have two more questions. JD, do you mind scooting in just a panel or light on you? There you go.
Sorry.
What do you, like, very briefly, what are you guys most proud of with, what you've created here?
I mean, I think the thing I'm most proud of is, excuse me. I think the thing I'm most proud of is the community. It's always that connection to brotherhood that I think that we all share. You've got your family that we're born with and born into, but then there's the family that we find. And that family we find on the way, for whatever reason and for whatever circumstances brought us to that family, is part of that brotherhood that connects us. And it's from that brotherhood into collaboration. And I think the thing I'm the most proud of is touching upon our talents and things we didn't even know about, having first and foremost that artist mindset, but diving into something and not being afraid to be wrong or be right. You know, it's to your point earlier, like we don't know how to make cigars. We know we're specialized in maybe our own little niches, but getting to play in a world and really find that confidence within it, and being able to work with you to find that, I think I'm proud of that connection and that brotherhood that we've created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and riffing off of that, there is no wrong.
No.
At all.
No.
It's all part of life and the experience.
Yeah.
And how many great things have come from wrong, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
What I'm most proud of is that we share the same vision, and these boxes sitting right here. I'm super proud of those, because you talk about community, and just like songs do, I mean, I write songs for myself and they make me feel good. And when other people relate to them, I mean, one of the most sacred moments is some little kid down in the front row singing the lyrics to a song I wrote. That is sacred right there, and he's relating to that. And these things will hopefully show up in cigar clubs or houses or places where people gather and they're able to communicate to each other and connect. These are, again, maybe just little switchboards of connection where people will be able to sit down and make their own dreams happen, create. And I mean, sitting in a cigar room talking with dudes is super inspiring to me. I learned so much,
Yeah.
Growing up without a dad, I got tons of dads out there. It's awesome.
Right. I love that. And I think, playing on that too, the extension of what we've created, that connection here, you mentioned that, that goes out, these boxes are going to go out into the world. Going to go out into the world, and people are going to, connect over it. They're going to have their own, it's like this, it just keeps growing. It keeps growing and growing and growing. There's a brotherhood that, these little circles, things we can't even fathom, that get created because of it. I love that.
Yeah. Each step that we take in this process together has an effect on the entire company at Drew Estate. This influence, it's like I talk about the thesis, and there's this beautiful thesis. It's powerful. It's a lion heart, this thesis. And there's a lot of things trying to throw it off course, whatever it is, a belief systems in music or distilling or teaching or education or rolling twigs up, just making cigars. And this thesis is powerful, and it stays from generation to generation. My country of dictator comes in and people have to run, and there's this thesis continuing throughout this. This is this is merchant shit of kings and queens of the Orient, and of rugs, and of furs and silks, and all of Marco fucking Polo in this shit right here. This is not fucking around shit. This is real deal shit. Countries are built on this. Rewrite history any way the motherfuckers want to. Countries, continents are built on this because of the camaraderie, the passion, and the ceremony, the ceremonies that we have, whether they're little ceremonies at our house or with our neighbor or with your, once a year you get together with Chinatown, or you go for dinner, whatever it is with the family. These traditions and pieces that all blend into it, now the influence that you're bringing into Drew Estate, it's like, hey, we grand Drew Estate with the thesis, and there's an antithesis, right? And this antithesis, it's so much noise out there, and when good people and good philosophies start to hit our thesis differently, that antithesis really unites and travels through this moment of time, short or long, And as we start to embrace the influences of thinking, that's where you result in synthesis. That shit, that's Socrates, Socrates. Thesis, antithesis, and then the newly formed synthesis. This is that coming together, that synthesizing. Now, for me, where you mentioned it before about the A pile, and you're like, whatever we do with the D pile may become greatness, but that A pile, put on the gas on it right now, that's lit. Let's get on that. We at True Estate recognize this moment in time, and I do as one of the leaders there of the business. I founded the company. And when I see this kind of energy, which comes back to energy, an influence, not an influence of who's got the, I could talk to all the, no, the influence of people really understanding your belief system and how you translate that into something that either people can consume as a affordable luxury, which is what this is, an affordable luxury. It's a moment of absolute luxury that you get to have together or alone with people. And I really thank you both from a standpoint of bringing incredible new energy into Drew Estate that we don't agree on every blend. We've worked with every single thing. We've worked through because of respecting each other's belief systems, whether it's taste or experience or knowledge or what you want to communicate for that moment in your life. And that has been the thing that makes Drew Estate different than other cigar companies. It's not just our tobacco. It's not just the seeds or the way we cure it or the fermentation process. It's the way we let things influence our ability and our platform to create. That's why this is one of the absolute most important times in Drew Estate's history, being selfish for a moment, serving the consumer with a consistent product that we can be proud of every time, of high quality, warranted standards. Same time, breaking the mold because we walk in our own path. And then being able to say, when you're that fucking good, turn a 4 to a 5. What happens when you turn it to a 5? You open your heart and you bring in new influence of people who have their shit together that can actually make us better. So I thank you, speaking for Drew Estate, because you guys make us better. And that, I really appreciate that shit.
Yeah, it's an honor.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers, gents.
And your teams who help make you bring it together.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of people, and it's something to be proud of, and it's it's humbling and an honor.